Alright, and we're trying that again. I apologize to everyone who connected on the first time, but, you know, this is fitting for a YouTube kind of thing. Not to tell me when it starts broadcasting, right? Hello everyone, and welcome to another fantastic BananaCast. We haven't had a proper BananaCast in a long time, actually. We had our, it seems almost comical now, our Future Shock BananaCast back in early, mid-February, which was quite hopeful for the days to come. And then not 2 months later, we had the kickoff plague, blue flu, pandemic BananaCast. Testing. You should be able to hear me. Is the music too loud? How about now? Bring it on down. So as I was saying, we had the Plague BananaCast, and then a few months later we had the spoiler-free BananaCast about the completion of the Confessions of a Wasteland Pony finale. And it was a surreal experience for me, and getting to launch that was pretty amazing. As what we're listening to now, for those of you who haven't checked out today's video, which was kind of a last-minute thing after I discovered this this musical work by The Caretaker, which is a review, by the way. Fair use, FCC, Susan. Don't dox the stream. People still can't hear? Oh my god. How about now? Testing. Testing. My mic seems fine. I think you might have to check your own audio on that. Anyway, this is a 6-album musical work by The Caretaker, which is pretty interesting. I like when like music is used in a more directly artistic way like that. I know there's some similar things like that. There's something called I Troll the Megahertz, I think. I don't think it had a very direct analogy as this album set does with the whole dementia thing, but it was also very nice. It's a little like 26-minute piece. But what I like about this is the first 2 hours, the first 2 albums are... Oh god. Oh god, it froze up. Oh my god. Oh, that's the ghost in the machine. Now my computer has dementia. The first 2 hours of it are this very nice sounding, artificial, old-fashioned-y kind of music. I think it's all original, composed by The Caretaker, but he did an excellent job of making it sound like an authentic re-recording or recapturing of songs from long ago. I recently watched a movie about it was the dramatized one with what's his name, Banana Cucumber, Benedict Cumberbatch, about the current wars between Thomas Edison, Westinghouse, and Tesla. And was it? I think it was Westinghouse. Yeah. Anyway, one of the features in there that a lot of people don't realize, well, some people realize, Thomas Edison also made a lot of early inventive inroads with the phonograph and some stuff like that. His first music recording medium was actually these really weird-looking, like, cylindrical tubes. If you like the what's the guy's channel name? I think it's Technology to Connections. And He covers all these really old fashioned like formats and stuff. He'll do like the history of Laserdisc or the Beta Max versus VCR wars of the 70s and 80s. It's very neat stuff. Anyway, he did a whole video on the recording cylinders, I believe. Sunset Shimmer says, I got the Master Chief Collection on Steam. That is right. Yeah, the Master Chief Collection came to STEM, didn't it? That's really cool. I actually just got the Xbone Saturn, the Xbox Saturn, the giant monolith, the rectanguloid, the black cube in worship to the one true God. Yeah, it was actually really lucky because I was really unlucky with trying to reserve the damn thing. But one of my friends who's just got the touch was able to reserve one at Walmart, and he picked it up for me, and I Venmo'd that brother some money, and it was pretty great. He's an old college friend. So I've been enjoying my 4K resolution 4K resolution Fallout 3 because I'm a creature of habit. I like remembering those old times of playing Fallout 3 after finishing high school and not having a care in the world. I actually just got a brand new TV also. I've been sitting on my Corona money all year. Literally all year since we got our one check in April. And I finally put it to use buying a brand new 4K OLED TV, which I'm extremely happy with. And then I got an LG soundbar to match it. So, completely new home entertainment system in the Skybolt household, which has been great. Except for Fallout 3, I have been using it for actual 4K things like renting movies. I upgraded my Netflix to 4K, which is more money a month. Thank you, Netflix. You fucking first to market motherfuckers. And then also HBO Max. I got HBO Max. I don't know if I mentioned it on a podcast yet. I got it to watch The Sopranos, which I did. And I was much more satisfied with the ending, having watched everything back to back like that, like a binge. It works much better as a binge, and admittedly, it works much better when you know what's coming, which I feel that way with a lot of different kinds of media, to be honest. Like, when I was going through the Confessions finale for creating the Confessions of a Demented Pony video that came out today, it was really neat. It was great going back and listening to some of those segments again, knowing where everything falls. Of course, for me, it feels like, the 100th time I've listened to them because of all the editing and stuff. But I think for those who only listen to it the one time over the summer, I think you'll get something fresh out of it listening to it again here. It's you can enjoy the Caretaker's lovely soundscaping as a background track, and then at the same time, you can re-listen through the story with the knowledge in mind that it's actually Loudspeaker in the place of Duchess Rosepetal for the entire story. And Rosepetal is squirreled away in her own room, hiding and keeping poor Homage alive and sane in Ten Pony Tower. HBO Max sucks. I know. I'm making the most of it because I'm trying to be a good boy and paying for services, mostly because it's just easier. It's the iron law of piracy is make the normal means of paying easier than the piracy, and people will do it. That was how iTunes became popular, and it's why Netflix and all these services are successful. But I'm getting my money's worth for now. If I cancel after a month or two, we'll see what happens. But I moved on from Sopranos to Boardwalk Empire, actually, which has been very fun. Speaking of old-timey music, I think that's how I discovered the Caretaker's thing in the first place, actually, because one of the great things about Boardwalk Empire, which is made basically by all the Sopranos people, but it's a fictionalized work of the Atlantic City political mob boss Nucky Johnson, who in the show is Nucky Thompson, played by what's his name? Steve Buscemi. Very, very fantastic actor. He's the guy with the eyes. The actor with those iconic bug eyes. He's almost like the modern day Peter Lorre, as far as like having your entire acting personality be defined by your strange glare and unique accent, which I think each of them had in their own separate ways. Peter Lorre, of course, being the thick Hungarian accent. For those of you who have no idea who Peter Lorre is, Lorre, it's the stage name, and he's an old-timey actor who has been parodied in so many different mediums. They parodied him in Bugs Bunny and a whole bunch of, especially like Golden Age, Silver Age cartoons. He has that very creepy voice and the really bug eyes, and his hair is all greasy and, oh, how do you say it? Like slicked over to one side. Anyway, Google him. There's some great documentaries on YouTube about his life. He led a very fascinating life, and had to escape Europe during the war and everything because he was part Jewish as well. So fascinating man, great actor. Interesting filmography. It was the time, so he did some movies that aren't quite kosher today, but it happens. Anyway, as a fellow Hungarian American. Anyway, I love the new video. I'm glad. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the something a little different. It's very easy content, I guess. Let me give a brief rundown, a Bogdanov rundown for those of you who actually haven't looked at the video yet. So, there's this whole thing with Wizard of Oz, speaking of old-timey things. There's a thing that popped up in like the mid-90s of people saying if you play Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon album behind The Wizard of Oz, like replacing the soundtrack, it has some really weird moments of serendipity where things almost seem to work together. And there was actually a legitimate charge against Pink Floyd, like, did you guys write this album to fit The Wizard of Oz? And eventually, yeah, they had to come out and say, no, are you crazy? No, we didn't do that. That's, but if you look at videos and stuff, it is very fascinating. I remember I watched it all the way through back in college. I took one film class as an elective, but it was one of the most fun classes I've ever taken. Obviously, everyone loves a film class. I was already into, media making and stuff, and I'm one of those, one of those film noobs that unironically enjoys Citizen Kane, which really is almost like out of place for its time. Citizen Kane has a very modern sort of like pacing and editing, and it doesn't feel like a lot of those like 1930s movies do. I don't know. It's a very good movie. I mean, there's a reason it's top 3 on most of the best films of all time lists and Criterion Collection and all that shit. Gamer Pause asks, in CWP 10 end, is DJ Pony your OC? Technically, the radio host is the 9th episode as far as full episodes go, but there's been so many, mixed little, expanded universe media that you could, I guess you could add in other things. I know the Winter Solstice special, that's sort of like 8.5. The songs that add to the lore, and the Twin Terrors, and all that good stuff. But, no, well, I mean, it is an OC, I guess. Yeah, spoiler alert for what's been out for 4 or 5 months now. It's revealed that the entire conception of Confessions of Wasteland Pony was to tell the story of the previous DJ Pony before Homage, and how he ended up retiring and handing over the microphone to her. And he's revealed to be a character named Loudspeaker with a forest green coat and blonde blast forward hairdo, very iconic of all the DJ ponies. He's an Earth pony too, because, you gotta mix things up a little bit. Anyway, I was pretty happy with his design. Played by Fuck, don't get it wrong this time. Is it Mike Carney or Mark Carney? I screwed it up, one of them, in the actual credits, and I felt so bad. He's in the FOE Dead Tree Studios as well, and he pointed that out, and I did feel really legitimately bad. I'm like, I'm so sorry, checked 100 different things throughout the episode to make sure I did it right, and then I didn't do it right with the one new character in the show. The big reveal at the end. Felt like such a jackass on that, so let me go to the end, and I'll tell you which one it isn't. Okay, in the credits, I write Mark Carney, which is wrong. It's not Mark. It is Mike, as in Michael. As in, I'm going to assume it stands for Michelangelo. Michelangelo Carney, who played loudspeaker in those final moments of the episode. So, thank you, Mike Carney, for that. I do sincerely apologize for my mistake. He did a great job. He actually did 5 completely unique takes, because I basically gave him, when I gave him the part, I sent him the scene from The Road, the movie version of The Road, starring Viggo Mortensen, and he's having a dialogue with, I think, one of the other random wastelanders he comes across when he's talking about his travels, and I said, you're that. You're basically playing that, and you're talking about, your successor, and who's going to survive you. And what ends up in the episode was his first take on the character, which was perfect. So thank you again, Mike Carney, for that. You did a fantastic job. I liked the Raider song in the holiday video. That was a funny one. I'm gonna assume you mean the Deck the Halls with Raiders. I think that was a good one. Well, actually, I'll be honest, I'm surprised that one was enjoyed as much as it was. It was kind of a silly one where I'm like, I wanted to do Deck the Halls, and I'm like, well, what's the most iconic thing in Fallout for decorations is raiders decorating buildings with the corpses of people. I mean, it's like Raider 101, so I'm like, okay, let's make it a Raider song then, and they're decorating it with you. The Raiders' favorite decoration is you. And so, I just wrote it to be silly, and I'm like, okay, all the Fallout Wastelandy stuff is very heavily influenced by Mad Max, so let's give them all Australian accents in my horrible interpretation of your culture, and there you go. Then I did like 5 different versions of the voice to sound like a Raider choir, and and for whatever reason, K-Cat found it, and he loved it. Todd Howard loved it, and he put it on his blog, and so it got, instantly another 10,000 views. So thank you, K-Cat, for shining the light of algorithm down upon my video. So that's why that's one of my most highly viewed Christmas FOE songs now, aside from the Nuclear Winter Wonderlands and the fuck, what was the sequel again? Jingle Bell Rock and all that good stuff. I took a listen at some of the parts of Everywhere at the End of Time, and damn, it's disturbing. Yes, it is very disturbing. I love it. As I say in the intro to the video, I try to be as honest as I can, but I take grief I express grief in really strange ways, because actually I've had numerous tragedies the last 3-4 months. It's actually been a very depressing time in my family, on top of all the 2020 stuff that's already been 2020. The period started out, we lost my grandmother at the end of July. My last grandmother, my last grandparent, and it was just like my first grandmother, where it's been 4 years of the slow decline, and hell, even 7 years ago, she was already on the downward direction, where in her old age, the senility, she was 85 back then. They both died at 92 and 93 respectively. So she was already she was a hard woman. She was very, not to speak ill of the dead, but there were many years where we were in contact with her just because of how horrible my mother's childhood was. But we had tried our best to make things right at the end, and forgive and forget, and help her in nursing homes and all that stuff. But yeah, it's horrible seeing that mental decline. Both of them, they didn't really have a physical decline, not in like the proper sense. Like both of them had hip replacements, and one of them had heart disease, but they never lost the ability to walk. They were old and feeble, but like they were not really physically limited at all, aside from, you see, the way like dementia and Alzheimer's usually ends up killing you in the end is that it eventually erodes enough of your neurological matter that organ functions don't really work too well anymore at all. And eventually you hit one point and it's just total system collapse, basically, which is what happened to my first grandmother, or the best grandmother. She was the best grandparent of all of them put together. So when she passed on, it was like that, where we were planning on putting her in a home after she had lived with us for the longest time and had just become kind of unruly, and then one day it was just over, So, not to get depressing, but obviously I've been in a strange mood. And then like a month after that, we lost our pet, our beloved dog Penny, who we'd had her for like 11 years. She's the most beloved, our only family pet in a long time, and that hit us all really hard. So that sucked. That really sucked bad. And then that obviously the general pastiche of American life hasn't been good this year for numerous reasons, but that's just the background wallpaper on top of some very personal tragedies that really shaped up 2020. Otherwise, there has been silver lining to the clouds. It has been nice getting to work from home, which saved so much of my time driving and saved a lot of money on gasoline, which in California is artificially inflated because of evil politicians. So that's been nice, and it'll probably keep going, under new administration and stuff. So we'll see what the future holds. I've always been the kind of person that lived like 1 year at a time anyway. Like, I have general like 5-year plans that I update year by year. But really, I've always lived on a year-to-year basis, just because I've had a really, like, I changed schools almost literally every year throughout elementary school for just numerous different reasons. And so it gave me sort of a, what's the right word? Wandering, lost at sea, kind of like unrooted outlook on life, especially with friends. Like, aside from the not being physically in school with friends anymore, especially as kids, your friends are people who you're with inconveniently. If you happen to occupy the same space, you're friends, and very few transcend the temporal, conditional, trappings of being in school together, or being in a work environment, or a church group, or a band, or whatever. So I guess that was a hard lesson I learned early on in life. The gas in Florida is $1.68 at the moment. I would literally kill alligators to get the gas that cheap. California just passed $3.20 again, which is relatively good considering the last decade. I remember when the whole COVID thing started and oil went like negative value for like a couple weeks because that's how GDP works. I remember thinking to myself, if it could just stay below $3, that'd be fantastic, like for good. But no, we have to have a new gas tax or some shit, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, so I'm really glad I don't have to drive as much. Which really sucks too, because one of my favorite like annual passions is going on road trips with friends. And I did end up going on 2 road trips this year, and both times both times I got sick and was hospitalized. The last one was literally a month ago, about 5 weeks ago, and not only was I was hospitalized out of state in Oregon. Uh, and I got to get a CT scan in a complete foreign location in a hospital in the middle of the fucking mountains. And I was like, oh God, I hope there's actually a hospital here, because I feel like I'm going to die. My stomach feels like it's turning into a bloody haggis or something. And yeah, so that was my second road trip. It was a lot of fucking fun. So that kind of put a damper on my year too, because that's usually a high point of a lot of my summers or falls is go on a fun road trip somewhere. Gas at 120, yeah. I remember as a kid, I still have faint memories of seeing with my own eyes when gas was below $1. And, you remember the 90s? There was like the 29-cent hamburgers at McDonald's and the 39-cent cheeseburgers and things like that. And, oh, God. There's a saying, I forget where I first heard it, but I've integrated it into my own lexicon now, which is, the past is a foreign country. 1990s America might as well be as different as America and Canada are all the time. Or Canada and the UK. Fuck, man. Like now, it's like kids under 7 or whatever aren't going to remember a pre-COVID world, probably. Like, I remember one flight before 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was almost 10. And I only flew, I flew a few times, but I only remember flying once before 9/11, and how easy it was, walking through the gate and getting on the plane and all that, and the actual flight. And otherwise, it's never been the same. Oh, God. It's just fucking wild. Anyway, hopping back to less timely subjects. So because I'm watching Boardwalk Empire, they're doing a lot of things, like the whole show was framed around prohibition and the liquor trade, of course. But they have a lot of other, like, topical things going on at the era. It starts off with 1920, so there's the whole suffragist movement with, women right to vote. There's the end of World War I. There was a liquor trade, early highways, not like the awesome Eisenhower freeways, but like the early highways going up everywhere, and the birth of cars and automobiles as the main transportation in America for numerous reasons. That's why that supplanted trains and stuff. Why trains are mostly just freight these days. And then what else? It's 1920s, early 20s, so it's Ireland, the Irish War for Independence and ensuing civil war. And I knew almost nothing about the whole Irish thing, how that all unfolded. And so it was really neat reading, watching it and then later going and watching YouTube videos and reading up about how that whole progression of things happened. And it was interesting how World War I sort of interrupted it. Like in 1916, I want to say, is when they had the Easter Uprising, and that was their real that was their declaration of independence. That was their kick into actually starting things off before actual full hostilities and full self-governance started coming into play. And basically they were able to elevate themselves to the level of home rule and have their own parliament and everything. And then it would be more years of struggle until after World War II, when all of the British Empire started collapsing, that they were the first ones, out the door, and you had the Republic of Ireland as of, I think, 49, something like that. So that's good. I'm glad they were one of the first ones out, because, they've been under British rule for a long, long time. And then North Ireland, that's a whole separate thing. I'm maybe 1% Irish. It's probably a mix of Irish and Anglo, to be honest. There's not a lot of Celt in me, so I won't speak on something that I'm not privy to. But Yeah, the whole Northern Ireland thing is a really interesting history of basically seeding and various other subjects and stuff. It's just neat. It's you know, that's like the first thing you could do when practicing writing fiction is you just pick a divergence point and you write an alternate story from there, you know. I got big into Man in the High Castle a few years ago, and before that it was what was it before that? Steampunks. A lot of steampunk stories are like that too, where you have some technological invention come early, and so you get your steam powered blimps and all that fun stuff early. It's a neat thought exercise. I actually have quite a few different alternate history kind of things I have planned for down the road, future stories, future novels. Hopefully, we'll see what plays out. It's weird. I almost don't know how to functionally. Ulysses Chronicle is alternate history because it's it's assuming there wasn't a collapse of Rome. There's that they eventually do fully conquer Germania and all that fun stuff. But it is fantastical, obviously. It's like an alternate universe in the most literal sense, since the whole thing is about alternate universes collapsing in on each other. But from an outside observer, it's an alternate history story. There's a really funny story. I think this is real, of what's his name? Siskel and Ebert. Ebert, the guy who survived, the larger one, the more recognizable one. After Avatar: The Last Airbender came out, his intro review of it, I think of the movie, was saying there was like a Earth far in the future after a cataclysm or something. Let me see if I can find that. Ebert review Last Airbender. Roger Ebert. Okay. I don't know. The Last Airbender is an agonizing experience in every category. You got that right. Blah blah blah, low rent, started with the 3D, exploited and unnecessary, blah 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 blah. Now for the movie itself. The first fatal decision was to make a live-action film out of material born to be anime. See? Yeah, Roger Ebert confirms that Avatar is anime. The animation of Nickelodeon TV series, bright colors and clear line in the style of such masters as Miyazaki is a pleasure to observe in the animation. Where's the scene? Here we go. The fifth paragraph. The story takes place in the future after man, capital M, man, has devastated the planet and survives in the form of beings with magical powers, allowing them to influence earth, water, and fire. What the fuck, man? What are you smoking? Anyway, so... So he's basically applying Pixar theory logic that, there was a great cataclysm and in the far future we have magical powers and stuff now. Maybe it's just its own world, its own universe, but no. So, or us and our fucking SUVs, maybe... Maybe that's the key. If you want to get magical avatar bending powers, we gotta burn this bitch to the ground fast. Mother Nature, you gotta die. We're gonna start lighting wells on fire, and Exxon's gonna Valdez themselves all over the ocean. So stupid. Yeah, anyway, I always found that really funny. That he tried to incorporate the story into real life for whatever reason. What were we talking about before that? Alternate history stuff. Yeah, so there's your alternate history. Since we're talking about Avatar now, let's talk about how great Avatar was. Well, I guess you could argue that the Legend of Korra, the whole framework of Republic City is alternate history of like, roaring 1920s with a radio voice and everything that that freaking Bright are really really big into. You could argue that that's almost like, it's an alternate history kind of take. I don't know how you would frame that. Anyway, it was kind of neat. I liked the old timey Roaring Twenties piece. That's probably my favorite part of Legend of Korra as like a series personally. It was just sad. I saw you see the potential in the series, but Korra didn't have that solid start to finish major apocalyptic war arc like The Last Airbender did, which definitely suffered because of that. I think if it had a more consistent overarching narrative, it might have, it would be seen more so, probably still a big portion of people wouldn't like it as much just because it's knowing us different. I don't like things that are different, but, it was pretty good. I like the story of the first season. I feel like that was the most self-encompassing with the whole Equalists and fucking what's his name with the mask and everything. That was cool. Second season, like I feel like they just wanted to have a water villain, and so they already had the one in season 1 though. So I don't know why they do a water villain 2. Northern Water Tribe Boogaloo. Then season 3, you have that air guy that's like above air bending, he's gravity bending or whatever. I think that was the season with the terrible animation too, where they like lost the contract with the original studio and so kind of took a nosedive in quality or something. And then I actually like season 4 a lot because I feel like season 4 they were just like, okay, fuck it, we're doing it live. We'll have the Earthbender villain and she'll be, we'll make her a spirit energy Nazi. That's great. She could be all have her purple beams and her giant giant railgun, which is definitely not the Schwer Gustav, that's for sure. The mask guy. Yeah. I actually like that whole arc because that actually seems like the most relevant plot point within Airbender. Like, you have this very, very obvious and stark, like, what's the word? Essentialist divide, where some people are literally born with magic powers and others are not. That would create a horrible, horrible class divide. Like, not even between different types of benders, which is kind of what the first series was about, but the vast majority of people who aren't benders at all. Like, I don't know what the numbers are, but it seems like at least the majority can't bend at all. I wonder if there's an answer on that. What percent of Avatar Airbender world can't bend? Nope, that's not the answer I was looking for. Okay, here's the wiki. Percentage of being a bender in each nation. Air nomads, pre-genocide, 100%. This is just, like, this is on a fandom page. I don't know how accurate this is. Water Tribe, 20%. Fire Nation, 25%. Fire Nation, 35 to 45%. And Earth Kingdom, 20 to 25%. So, yeah, I would argue that, only 1 in 3 people has magic powers. Like, that's... I mean, I don't know if we're breaking out the Pareto principle or whatever, man, but that's going to create just the tiniest bit of class resentment. So yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I really enjoyed season 1. I felt like that was a very solid plot line. And then the setting, of course, being Roaring 20s. It's the capital P progressive era in America where you had the, all the hard unions rising up and you had the socialist movements and And then you had the other populists like Teddy Roosevelt and who's the fucking Louisiana guy? Huey Long, the dictator of Louisiana, Huey Long. That was his era too. Ah, that was wild times in America. Oof. 100 years ago. I remember one of my road trip plans I've had for a while is the Gulf Coast road trip of like starting off in Nolens and renting some kind of car there and then driving the entire Gulf Coast and seeing all like the old fashioned sights and stuff and, you know, sample the cuisine and all that good stuff and then end up in Florida, like Key West. Anyway, one of the stops on there, I was thinking going through Baton Rouge as well to see when this guy, he became governor of Louisiana in like the 20s or something. And literally, like, he just kind of was a dictator. Like, he just ruled autocratically and, like, built all these giant Art Deco, like, buildings and stuff. Like, the Louisiana City Hall is actually really neat looking. So I kind of want to go to Baton Rouge and see it. I'm such a junkie for Art Deco shit, of course. I remember I got the BioShock HD remaster thingy, whatever, this year? I think it was this year. At some point, I got that in the last year or so. And it had little documentaries in it and stuff, too. And one of them was the main guy, what's his name, from id Software, id Games, talking about how his first idea for, like, the aesthetic of BioShock came from when he was visiting New York with his wife or family. Because New York, of course, there's a lot of different architectural styles that are all kind of blended together. And he commented on, like, you can't really look in any one direction and see consistently. You know, it's not all red brick or all marble or all shitty modernism or all brutalism. But there is one square in New York where in all directions you look, it's Art Deco. Because the entire complex was built at the same time in the same style. And that is 30 Rockefeller Center, of the famous filthy rich American tycoon family, oil tycoon family of the Rockefellers. Which includes, I believe, the Radio City Music Hall on one side, and then 30 Rockefeller Center is the NBC, you know, Capitol building there. And they always put a big tree in it, everything. Anyway, he says standing in the center of that courtyard, on all sides, you know, it looks like one place. It looks like one consistent architectural scheme. Ironically, though, the best Art Deco building in New York is not part of the Rockefeller Plaza. It's actually the American Radiator building, which is in... I don't know New York at all. Somewhere in New York. The American Radiator building, which is a company, obviously, American Radiators. It's this gorgeous, black-looking, you know, pillar rising up out of the street, and then on top are all these elaborate, like, gold, like, circly things, and Art Deco-y things, and it just looks so cool. Just Google it. It looks amazing. Of all architecture in New York, I feel like that's the premier, like, Art Deco building. Even on top of, like, you know, technically Empire State Building is Art Deco, and the interior definitely looks nice. But the exterior, it kind of, you know, it's mostly around the spire. Same with the Chrysler Building. It's mostly the spire that looks Art Deco. Like, a lot of the sides are just kind of steel and glass, and, you know, it could be confused to be modern as shit, even though it's not. But, where's I going with that? Anyway. They should build more Art Deco. That's the whole point of all this, is build more Art Deco. Last Airbender washes like a classic hero's journey. Legend of Legend of Clorox got complex, but I like them both. Yeah, they're both different, you know, obviously, and I think the age group thing, too. You know, when you're a kid, if you grew up with Avatar and you were around the age of the characters, which I was, too, it felt like they tried to age it up somewhat, you know, make them teenagers to fit with the new kids and stuff. But it's not the same. even if you were the same age as them when they were kids, the fact of them being, tweens and early teenagers and stuff, you can connect with them more. You have that sort of, they seem more innocent, they're more relatable. The things that they suffer feel more. It's like my theory on Fallout Equestria that I've explained a few times in the past, which is it works because the divide between, the cute, innocent ponies and the nightmare Fallout world is a much bigger divide than regular people and nightmarish Fallout world. Especially these days. So it's playing with those contrasts. It's playing with those tones that makes it more biting, that makes it spicier, emotionally spicier, more dramatic, I guess, because you have that much more was lost. That much more innocence and goodness was lost in the world of their big great war, global apocalypse than with our world. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Fallout Equestria works so well, especially when handled by a good author like K-Cat. So, okay. It's actually getting a little toasty in my room for whatever reason, so I'm going to go open a window real quick. I'll be back in 1 sec. You can listen to the dulcet tones of the caretaker. Okay, I'm back. There we go. That's just right. Luckily, with the time change in the California Central Valley, we also finally have cold weather now. Thank God. It was a very hot year. I planted a tree as well, and I'm like, this tree's gonna fucking die. It's gonna be set on fire as soon as I put it in the ground. Brand new baby tree from a nursery, because one day it's gonna grow big and strong and be a shade tree in front of my house. So it'll cool my house a little bit, hopefully, and also be pretty with the leaves changing and stuff. It's a Shantung maple, a Chinese, I think, yeah, Chinese originally, but it could grow anywhere. It's one of the sturdiest maple varieties in the world because it grows fast. It's very hardy, like it can survive wide ranges of weather, including really dry climates and hot climates like Central California and Texas. So I'm hoping it's going to do its job, and I'm going to do my job by taking a little bit, a few percentage points out of the urban heat index. Not that I'm really close to any urban areas, but, the suburban heat index. Do you know what the answer to all that is? Boulevards. We need more. Every major road should be a boulevard, and they should be planting big rows of fucking trees in all those boulevards, so it fixes the heat index problem. Sacramento is actually pretty good on that. We are the city of trees, after all. So it's not like Houston. Looking at you, Houston. That's actually where I first read about the Shantung maples, is that Texas is planting a fuck ton of them because they do have urban heat index problems, because Texas in general is a lot less naturally forested than California, where a good half of our state is Cascade redwoods, which is gorgeous, and the Sierra Nevadas, which is also redwoods and fir trees and evergreens and stuff, and the coastal redwoods. And it's only really the bottom where the Mojave, the Mojave starts that that it gets really hot, desert hot. But anyway, it's all about just placing them correctly, putting them in the right places. I wonder how you feel about FOE Project Horizons. I've read 10 chapters, the first 10, I want to say. I might be totally wrong on that, but I feel like I read the first 10. And I know for sure it's like, it's a step up as far as explicit material. I remember when I joined Stable-Tech and I first started hearing about Project Horizons in the studio, 2013, 2014, fucking lifetime ago. And I read the first chapter, and there were several rapes and attempted rapes, and the C word started getting thrown around, the really fun C word, a whole lot, where suddenly it became an Australian story. And I was like, okay, this is definitely, you could definitely feel it being a level above, level above regular Fallout Equestria. Anyway, so I mean, it felt like it was well written. I from what I've read, and obviously from the reaction, like it seems well written, constructed, and whatever. Although there are some differing opinions over where it should have stopped based on every Project Horizons fan I've talked to. But I do remember getting to meet Somber at Everfree Northwest a few years back. And it was the funniest thing where I met him, and I think I tweeted it as well or something, where I'm like, he seems like someone who would do your taxes. he feel like I got that immediate feel of like, middle management. This is not to cast aspersions. It's just the vibe I got from Somber. He just, feels like that kind of guy. Like I'd find him in an H&R Block or something. Anyway, which made it all the more funny that he's the mastermind behind the ultraviolet, nuclear horror story. But then again, he also has like the committee, which obviously he swallowed up all the attention, so I low-key, being totally transparent, I was a little bit jealous of all the attention he got, even in our panels and stuff. But anyway, I thought it was kind of weird how he had like his staff of editors and stuff, and I know that's true of some of the other big stories as well, and I don't know, it's just like, it's not the same, Even if I make mistakes or it's not as tight of a script or whatever, at least, all my stories are mine. It was just my writing, and I'm happy with it. And, I improve over time. I feel like I've improved over time. I'm not sure what the general consensus is. Maybe it's shit now. And I peaked with the X-Raider, but I feel like I've improved over time in terms of structure. And I just like, I don't know. Growing up, my mother's favorite book is my mother's favorite author was Stephen King. Ironically, a lot of things I like and stuff actually come from her. My dad's a unique personality, but my mother is like, she'll consume anything horror. Like when I'm at my parents' house and I open up their Netflix, it is literally nothing but horror movies. They've like curated their own. What's that horror movie Netflix? I think it's called like Chiller or whatever. Anyway, all of their Netflix algorithm is just B movies and direct to platform, horror and Blumhouse and slashers and whatever. Like, it's just, I don't know. So, that's where I get a lot of my own, what's the right word? Desensitization to most kind of media. Like, nothing really offends or shocks me. And, it could be for a number of reasons, but that was definitely a contributing factor. Where's I going with that? Why did I say that? Why did I start with that? Oh, for writing. Okay, yeah. So she always likes Stephen King, of course, because it's horror and spooky and weird stuff too. And as far as I know, I could be wrong too, but I don't know if he has like an editor proper either. Like, I'm sure in the early days especially, he probably, obviously there were like grammatical editors or like whatever in the in whatever his first publishing studios were, like, back in like the Stand days or whatever. But I think ever since his cocaine 80s, I don't think anyone tells him no anymore. Not after you have enough TV shows and movies, I think they'll just buy whatever you hand them. Anyway, I don't think editing for grammar is a problem, but like, there's something weird about having like a content staff. Like, I immediately get that like feeling in the back of my neck, like, okay, so it's a committee. I don't know. It's kind of, it was a weird vibe I got when they were talking about like the editing staff. And it made more sense to me why Project Horizons is as long as it is. Okay, so it's not one author, it's one prime author and then 4 or 5 secondary authors. Anyway, obviously this is just cope because I'm jelly that Confessions or Terminal Secrets will never be in the big 5 lists or whatever major Fallout Equestria stories. That's fine. Anyway, but no, I think it's personally it helps me, just learning to do better in my own editing. Like when I was polishing up the scripts for Confessions, I actually broke out a lot of my favorite books and literally just read through the paper books again and looked at what they did formatting wise. So my old paper book of Jurassic Park, the Halo Ghosts of Onyx, things like that. I just looked at the literal physical book and I'm like, what font should I use? What should I do for ellipses? What should I do for this and that and that? And little by little, I came to a good, solid, kind of consensus, and I felt proud of that. For anyone, has anyone even looked at the scripts? I think some people have, because that's actually one of the most downloaded things in the folder is the bonus features package, which the prominent thing of that is the scripts. And then there's like, the songs, which everyone had already probably. The Wikipedia, which is like a backup archive. The photo, that's kind of neat. The photos, like my original shitty concepts, and then the in progress, and then the nice final art for the series. So that's a nice, fully encapsulated everything for the series. But I feel like the scripts were the main thing. That was the featured item of the package. And anyway, I hope it was nice. I hope people enjoy it for what it was. That took a fucking long time. That was in between all of my audio editing in in April and May. Basically, when I couldn't record and my mind was too fried to do audio editing, I was doing text editing. And so I was like cleaning up all the drafts that I'd sent to people for actual recording, fixing my own grammar problems and getting it all nice in Word and then making the PDFs and highlighting things appropriately and coloring characters and like voice things appropriately. Like, if a character does voices for their parents or a friend or whatever. So the reader can see it in the same way that the voice actor or actress did, where they're like, okay, now I need to do the girly voice, and so it's colored purple or whatever. Anyway, I hope people enjoyed those. I'm glad we have fans. Thank you so much. I'll be honest, and obviously, this is as much with James Vermont as myself, but how we were able to get the series to like connect together, we really did our best to have like, an interlocking series of universe or whatever. Like our Twin Terrors work fits together with our Confessions and Terminal Secrets. Those are the main pillars. And then we've got the Wasteland Survival Guide on the side, where we made little references to like Battered Blade and stuff, and one-offs and the songs and all that. So we did our best. Hopefully people that have been along for the ride all these years have enjoyed it. So yeah, it's been neat. It's been fun. It's one of those things where I feel like, I'll come back in 10 years and listen through everything again and hopefully be, as proud of it as I am now. Which is really weird, thinking that I started, my stuff with facing the Fallout over 7 years ago now. Holy shit. Whew, what a long, strange trip it's been. The past is a foreign country. Everywhere at the end of time, potentially outlive you or whatever. Like way early on, I want to say 2014 or so, when I was first really getting into like fan fictions and stuff like that. You know, you go through all the infamous and famous ones like Cupcakes and My Little Dashie and all that stuff. And I remember discovering someone who wrote like a kind of serious follow-up to Cupcakes called I don't even remember what the fuck it was called now. But anyway, I found out like later on that the author had died, and so where they were going basically had to get picked up by another fan fiction author, and you know, it was like in memoriam and stuff like that. But I remember that kind of hitting me, like he had died before I even discovered his you know, non-canon follow-up to Cupcakes, which was really well done. It was a whole, you know, serial killer mystery story follow-up to Cupcakes. Oh, here he is. A Precious Rainbow. I think this is the person who read it. AMI Mizuno Fan 22. God, this has been in my playlist for 7 years now. A Precious Rainbow, Living the Dream, and The Cupcake Killer. And I want to say Precious Rainbow is the one that the one guy wrote, and then he passed on. And then The Cupcake Killer is the third part that a different person wrote to, like, end the story or whatever. Anyway, so when I discovered that in, like, 2013 or whatever, that kind of, like I said, it kind of got me in that mindset of, like, you know, something that could go beyond you, potentially. Anyway, obviously I always get this way around the holidays too, really like overly nostalgic and shit, and it's been a dramatic year, but it's a dramatic year that's hopefully coming to a close now. And it was nice to have been able to finish like Confessions, and we finally finished our fucking documentary too, the Great Experiment, which had also been cooking for way too long. Our production process on that was almost as long as Stable Text was, but we got it done, and that's all that mattered, and we released it, so we were able to tell our little story about it, and it even had some interesting after the facts, finding out that Final Sight still followed us, and the guy who wrote the Reddit thing was, you know, a little bit remorseful about it, so... And, you know, at some point, no one's going to give a fuck about that stuff. But it's, you know, it's what you're there for. It's like, you know, you can only take things as they're happening around you. And I guess that's another thing I've learned ever since, like I said, I was very nomadic. And that's a good word, nomadic, in my early life. And so it gave me that sort of unrooted perspective of the world. But you got to just enjoy things in the moment, you know? If you have some good friends around you, make the most of that. You know, get all the good friendship out of them, because then, you know, maybe they have a baby and you can't hang out for a couple years, or you know, move away. That happened to all my best friends from high school. All the closest friends that, you know, you have those late into the evening car talks and go to all the homecomings and proms together. All my best friends from high school, I almost never talked to them. Like, they all moved to the other side of the country for school and stuff, and you just aren't in contact. You know, if they're only in town once a year and it's for them to visit their own families like Christmas and stuff, that's it. I remember one of them, I did videography for their wedding. They had a professional photographer who I pissed off in the process of getting just raw video of the whole event, but I got some good damn video, and that was the last time I saw her for 6 years now, and found out that she's having a baby soon. Actually, she might have already had it. I have no idea. She told me December, I think. I got a text from her. She needed those video files again earlier in the year that, you know, lost or something. So that's kind of neat to read. Anyway. And especially, you know, you never know for yourself. You know, something could happen to you. You sort of have to, you know, seize the day. I guess it's going back to classical perspective on life. You have to, what is Latin saying? Carpe diem, seize the day for all everything that it has to offer you. Because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. Yeah, Miles Prowler 06. I believe that was the guy that died. It was something very strange too. It was either a sudden car accident or he had like a heart problem or something. So it was very sad, but like I said, it was very very surreal reading that. I guess that's the whole theme of the podcast is surreal. Has it only been an hour? Oh my god. It feels like it's been like 4 hours. This feels like the mindset I have usually in the 5th hour of a podcast after everything of real value has been said, and then you're just drifting into those dreamlike reflections. I had a couple of good podcasts with Chris there the last couple of months, but I don't know. I needed a BananaCast, just something to monologue. Sometimes the voices are too much. Sometimes it's like, you know, you talk for a few hours and then someone fresh comes in and just completely overwhelms things. It's like, oh god, I can't keep up with that. It's like running a marathon and then someone, you know, wants to go rock climbing. It's like, no man, I've already been doing this other thing for a while, you know. You go rock climb on your own channel. So anyway. Finally that's another reason I haven't really had a BananaCast proper, because I had those copyright issue streams over on my Skybolt channel, which is finally over. Finally got passed after Blinding Lights was horrifically murdered by the British phonographic industry. The copyright strike on my channel finally expired, and so I felt safe enough to upload the Heart's a Mess parody, which I was pretty proud of. The next song is probably the Christmas song. I have a fun Christmas song I've been thinking of doing for a while, and it's dependent on if I can find the right instrumental for it now, but it would be really cool if I could. Oh, good morning, Scroll Keeper. We have some of the old worlders are waking up now, so that's good. There's a reading of it I want to re-upload to YouTube, but I'm scared. Yeah, that was another thing too with early Brony stuff, isn't it? There was the burn and leave people, you know, who just nuked their entire channels and their entire discographies and everything and just abandoned it all. It's kind of surreal because the internet is mostly forever. It's very, very hard to actually remove things permanently from the internet unless you're like such a nobody that, you know, there's no backups or there's no people or whatever. But especially these days, I feel like it's very smart to have backups of everything, because a lot of these websites are so arbitrary with what they just, you know, outright remove from the site, as well as number of other issues. I download into a hard drive pretty much anything I really genuinely enjoy. Something I feel like, you know, might be at risk of getting nuked one day from YouTube or something like that. And I think it's good perspective to have for the internet. I mean, my sort of nonstop downloading for the Stapletech stuff in the chat rooms is half the reason we had as many visual assets as we did for the documentary. A lot of those were from my old hard drive that I was able to just, you know, pull back out and give them to James and what was it, his other friend that did the actual video of the documentary. So there's a lot of value in that. And, it's preservation of information. I remember over the summer, I think, so much free time with the COVID and stuff, I stumbled on Lost Media Archive and just reading about media that people know of, but they can't actually recover, like the video footage or the songs or whatever, was really fascinating. It's like that one channel I discovered, or not discovered, recently. The Wang guy, Wang, who's like, I think he's Korean or whatever, Korean American. And he does a lot of like internet archive kind of stuff too. And he was talking about the most mysterious song on the internet, which someone recorded like a clip of it from like a West German radio station in the 80s, and it has a very 80s feel to it. And just no one could find like what the song was. Like it was like a demo sent into a radio station, and people wanted to have the full song, and it was just like a big mystery. But it's thanks to like, searching and sort of like highlighting the question out there to the internet, broadcasting the problem, that eventually people turn up and they have an archive of it, and then it's back, then it's on the internet again forever. There's a lot of stuff like that too in classical is not the right word. I guess that is technically what the Renaissance kind of was the rediscovery and the bringing some of those classic literature things back into the fold. Like, there's wild stuff about how we've recovered information, like parts of, I think, the Egyptian language, or I think it's called the Demotic, which is like that Egyptian Greek hybrid language from the Ptolemy era, where they were able to basically like figure out how to spell or like what certain characters mean from mummies. like basically the things that they wrapped some like poorer people mummies in were like scrolls that were just covered in text, and it's wild, some of the stuff like that. Or old texts that like, the mid what would have been like early medieval, early Middle Ages Catholic Church might have wanted to get rid of, and so they would sort of bleach the scrolls and then reuse the paper for something else. So then they'll do like a computer scan or an X-ray and discover, some ancient Latin like poem or novel or whatever hidden behind the pages of these ancient like Vatican archive kind of stuff. And it's fascinating. It's it's preserving the flame of knowledge, the light of Prometheus. That's what we carry forward always. In a lot of ways, that's what makes humans unique. Like more so than a lot of things. Obviously, the complex thought is kind of important, and the opposable thumbs. but one of the key features is memory, like long memory, the ability to record information that can last beyond your life, and it's really fascinating. I'm going to recommend again that the book I've been talking about for a couple years now, the Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, because Julian Jaynes, he has some really interesting takes on that kind of thing too, about how consciousness is basically a byproduct of language, and language being the communication medium of memory between different sides of the brain. Really neat stuff. It's the really kind of, heady, like overly introspective stuff that makes great for like writing. Well, it's great to feed into the ideas engine for writing. Scrolls, you say? What do you use to download that stuff? Oh, I've tried a lot of different programs over the years. Some of them have like become obsolete, or like YouTube has blocked them or whatever. But for YouTube videos, I found this thing called 4K Video Downloader. Who makes this? Who makes this shit? Here, I'll just post it in the chat. It's this thing. Anyway, I ended up, you can get a demo version for a while, and then eventually I just broke down, and it was like a one-time fee of like, I think $20 just to have it unlimited, but it's been worth it. It literally downloads like 4K max, or I think up to 8K max resolution videos, which is incredible. And so like live streams or whatever, as soon as they end, you have to wait a little bit for them to actually like properly process or whatever. But like after we do live streams like this, I'll download the entire live stream as like an archive, and it's pretty great, you know. That way you've got it backed up, time coded. That way, in case the stream goes away or whatever, it's, you know, it's just good to have. Same thing of other live streams on other channels that are, you know, more YouTube hazardous than we are. Except for some like copyright stuff and the horrible bigotry we suffer at the hands of the British phonographic industry. We really don't have too many problems with YouTube. It's mostly just the, you know, the stereotypical stuff we like to bang on about just to annoy them because, you know, they're $1 trillion corporation. You know, you should be able to say whatever you want about them because fuck them. Dang multinationals. I'm reading Collapse, How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed by Jared Diamond. Yeah, I've heard good things about the Jared Diamond books. Yeah, especially like big civilizations. They seldom are conquered by another empire. It's mostly a suicide. It's mostly a degrading from within. That's true of the Roman Empire, you know, the peak of the Turks and the Umayyads and Chinese at various points in their history. Most major empires, it's usually some kind of internal fracture that ultimately creates the collapse of basically the pressure that you've exerted, you know, the maximum outward force collapses in on itself like a dying star. I guess the biggest one in history, by land area anyway, would be the British Empire. And you look at, like, over the last 2 centuries, it is fascinating. Like, basically, as soon as America left, because we're America, you have 1 century of colossal, non-stop growth. As soon as America leaves, then they have like the whole Act of Union, or no, I think it was before America actually, where they pulled Scotland in. Scotland's stuck now, and Ireland was already conquered and all that stuff. And then immediately you get Australia, and then India, and then all the other, you know, territories. Canada is still there, and all that. Queen Victoria's entire reign. And then, as soon as World War II ends, it's the opposite. It's just the complete unraveling. I guess from an American perspective, that's why I always thought the Brexit was really interesting. It was, you know, within our grandparents' lifetimes, the biggest empire in the world is now begging a bunch of Germans and Belgians to be able to fish in their own waters and stuff. It's kind of surreal. That's, yeah. Passed as a foreign country. Anyway, I think the music has definitely been having the effect, because I'm listening to it as well as it's being broadcast over the stream, of setting you in that kind of mood. It gets a lot crazier. As those who've listened to the series know. The 3rd album is where it gets really like, you know, you start the descent of the upsetting, like, soundscaping. And I want to say the 4th or 5th album is the one where it's just maximum noise. Like, it's barely even music. You don't hear these old-timey tunes anymore. It's just, like, starting and stopping. You know, it sounds like just experimental nonsense. And there's a lot of really cool, like, stereoscopic effects where it's bouncing around left and right. Different kind of pastiches. I think I've already used that word. To how the sound plays out. It's very fascinating. That's right. That is why I like Pony as well. I reject reality and substitute my own. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You dive into fiction when the real world is really lame. I'm actually rereading through not rereading. I saw the movie and now I am reading the book of Ready Player One, and that's basically the whole starting framework of that book too, which is because it came out right after the Great Recession started of the whole housing market collapse, and it was the same thing where it's like, yeah, everything sucks right now, and so people were like really wanted a virtual world to escape into, and that was when the Oasis came out, and so, you know, the super nerdy guy became super duper billionaire. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's just, you know, ongoing fun times. What was I gonna say about that? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of housing collapse, the thing that started the whole housing collapse, which is the subprime loans, they're doing that again. So just FYI, like, you know, I don't know, fucking buy gold or something, because that same housing bubble that exploded all over everyone's face in 2008 and 9, they're inflating it again. So that's gonna be super duper fun when that pops again. I don't even know. I really, most of the time, I tell people buy land. Land is the one thing that really retains value. Like, gold has historically retained its value for the most part, but gold isn't really a thing that's intrinsically valuable. It's really just the oldest thing that we've agreed has value because it is shiny and rare and, you know, what's the right word? Corrodable? It's non-corrosive. It doesn't corrode you either, but, you know, it's hard to, like, you can't taint it with, like, acids or, like, you know, smudges or whatever in the same way as other metals. Yeah, I'd say buy land. That has real value. Rather than the houses themselves or whatever. Brass and lead. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That is the real value, because we're going to get into metro territory here eventually. Get your brass and lead and, what is that green ammunition again that they make? I forget what it's made out of. Like tungsten or something. Probably not tungsten. It's, mentally friendly ammunition. The green bullet. The green bullet program. Yeah, what's it made out of? Oh yeah, I was right. Okay. The hazardous material antimony substituted for tungsten and tin combination. What about good old lead replaced with steel, sometimes with a tungsten or copper core? There you go. I mean, you can't go wrong with steel. Steel's gonna be around a while. It's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah, your green ammunition. Just make sure it's not biodegradable. It's just, you want it so it doesn't degrade the environment, but you don't want, you know, you want to be able to put that in like a bunker for 30 years if you can. Unless you lost it in the lake. Oh my god. Like all my guns. I lost them all in a boating accident last week. It's the saddest thing. Oh god. It's so dumb. Yeah, storable food too. You know, when the whole Corona thing started, I did that as well. I bought one of those like couple week like boxes of, you know, freeze-dried food or whatever, where you just add water. I already have a bunch of like water, like iodine purification tablets, and as you can read in our chapter, Confessions of Wasteland Pony, it is fairly easy to deparasitize or, you know, demicrobialize water with bleach. Or basically you just fuck with the pH enough where it kills all the viruses and bacteria and stuff. But one of the things people always have to remember is it's not just the actual germs, the creepy crawlies. Food can be toxic, and that can still be a problem too. What which is why you got to purify it with like, boiling or something like that, where you separate it from the sludge. I'm trying to remember the example someone used of like, I think it was with heat. Like, most organisms like that can't survive high temperatures or anything either. But you can't just take like a 3-week-old turkey that's like rotting and throw it in the oven at 500 degrees for 5 hours, and then you can eat it just fine. There's all of those well, technically they're organic, but there's those non-living toxins left behind by the organisms that will still kill you if you eat it. So you can't just eat your green eggs and ham. It's going to kill you in the same way it killed Sam I Am and the son of Sam. That was much less reported. That's a really obscure joke. There's a serial killer that was called the Son of Sam killer. Google that. It's the same thing as it's just the same thing as Sesame or fucking Dr. Seuss. At Walmart, we sold so much ammunition. Yeah, we used to anyway. I don't know if they sell it anymore, but it was a good year for gun sales. A lot of people bought guns and ammo this year. Woo! Fun times. You gotta be ready. You don't know when 2020 will come to your door, busting your windows or setting fires. God, it's pretty wild times. But then again, I keep telling myself every other time in history thought the same way. Probably at the start of the actual Civil War, they thought the same thing. Like everything was falling apart on them. Or the World War I. I mean, everyone was freaked out by the first mechanized war and how horrific that was. Especially France. France got it bad in both wars, being a major theater of operations. Yeah. So I don't know. It's sort of like that's where the what's the right word? Appropriate, like tuning in, like, you're paying attention enough to know what's going on in the world, but not so much that you're having like, panic attacks about it or whatever. Cause it's like, there's people that are like, oh, you gotta, I could never bring a child into this horrible world. Like, I don't know, man. A lot of people were having children even during the Black Plague in the 1340s and 50s. And a lot of people were having kids during the Antonine Plague and the fall of Rome and the all number of conquests in history. It's a little bit like, you can't go over the top. You can't close the door to your own future because of the things happening around you. Because that's ultimately what what it's all about. Is you gotta rise to the challenge of adversity, and sometimes something better happens on the other side. So we'll see. There's always another problem. There's always another market collapse or war, or sometimes it's the same war, like Afghanistan, and we just never leave. I can't wait to tell my children about when Afghanistan started, because it'll still be going on. Anyway, there's got to be something non real life we could talk about. Mandalorian. Is anyone watching Mandalorian? No spoilers, but I will say that it's definitely, Mandalorian, Disney are aware that Mandalorian is popular and makes money. So you can tell that they are putting the resources in, and they're bringing in more things from like the original trilogy and the other expanded universe type stuff is starting to converge with the Mandalorian. So hopefully it's a good season. I am excited, I want to see some of these things in live action that used to only exist within the realms of the Clone Wars and Dave Filoni's mind. So that should be fun. And what are the other new shows? The Boys season. I think that's the worst. That's literally the worst. The worst thing about the pandemic. The worst thing about 2020 is that now even streaming services are going to weekly. That sucks. I hate that that's come to streaming services, but I guess I'm not surprised. I guess I really should. I guess in a way, I should be surprised that it's taken this long. You know, Netflix has been around 10 years now. That the binge model has given way to conventional TV scheduling because it's better for them, and you know all the all the parasites that soak off of entertainment, like the news, you know, listicles and stuff. But it's okay, I guess. I guess with you know, it ultimately is what people want, because then people do want something to look forward to the next week. You know, then everyone can spend a week talking about. People can spend a week debating whether or not Baby Yoda committed genocide last week. Go ahead, type that into Google. You will not be disappointed. Baby Yoda genocide. I feel like I don't want to describe more than that, because then people who don't know what any of that means, they can read the story and decide for themselves whether Baby Yoda is a monster that almost wiped out an entire species or not. So dumb. The short answer is no. It's just for clickbait, but it's kind of funny. It was a funny part of one of the episodes that came out last week. F for the stream. Did the stream die? I don't think it's died. Oh, F stream for Firefly Serenity. Oh, yeah. Everyone presses F for Firefly and Serenity. The worst part about that was there was very clearly, like, you know, a lot more potential of a greater universe and greater stories, but well, Fox can definitely be blamed for, you know, the scheduling and all that stuff that killed Firefly back in 2002. It's kind of science fiction in general. You can't put science fiction on conventional television. It always dies. Always the producers don't see the numbers they want because science fiction is for nerds or whatever. And so that's why conventional television is all fucking reality shows and cop shows, which is another thing I'm so fucking sick of. I've never really watched cop shows, but there's like, and all this other stuff. And then you have to sort of remember that, like, the main TV audience or the main TV watchers are that middle-aged demographic. You know, they're the 40s and 50s, and it's people watching daytime television, you know, the homemakers and stuff like that. So it's like, even if you have a really good primetime show you like, if it doesn't work in syndication for those daytime markets, it's probably going to fail. Which is one of the many things I love about the modern streaming. Even if it's a bunch of streaming services now, even if I'm paying 5 different companies $10 a month so I can watch different shows in different places, it's still better than conventional television, because there were so many stupid issues with conventional TV, like programming. Everything with programming had to have this specific timing and only hit for certain markets or whatever. Like, we still have problems like funding. Like, you can have a great show like The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, and it was too expensive because you have puppets and stuff, so they canceled the show. Or Society on Netflix, which was kind of a neat show where, like, these kids in New England, they get yeeted into an alternate reality, like kind of like Leftovers, like the end of Leftovers. Anyway, but yeah, they all disappear into a world where all their parents and the rest of the world is just gone, and they're living in this creepy duplicate of their hometown that is empty, and so they have to form a society on their own and try to survive and figure out what the fuck just happened to them. And it seemed like the cheapest show you could possibly film. It's like, you know, you have your New England town set and the insides of a couple of old churches and stuff, and then your actors. Like, It doesn't seem like it should cost anything, but apparently because of coronavirus filming whatever, Netflix is like, the numbers weren't worth it, so canceled. So that sucks. But disappointed but not surprised. That's a lot of 2020, is disappointed but not surprised. Mandalorian just proves that sci-fi western still works. Star Wars, Firefly, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, The Expanse. Yes! The Expanse! That was one I just discovered this year too. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic, actually. In like March or April, I discovered The Expanse, and I love it. That was such a good show. And it's still ongoing, of course, but that's like peak sci-fi for me. I love it's just the right amount of like realistic, like, you know, within the solar system kind of stuff. But then they bring in the fantastical, like, you know, the whole season 1 and 2 stuff. And then it gets bigger. Then it gets more ridiculous with season 3 and 4. If you're not watching The Expanse on Amazon Prime, check it out. It's a fantastic show. I love it. And of course, because I'm the music guy, I love the soundtrack as well. The soundtrack by, I think his name is Clint Shorter. I want to say that's it. Shorter, Clinton Short, or something like that, is fantastic. I got, you know, the music on my Amazon Prime, you know, listen whenever, and it's very great for writing to. It has a very you know, sort of classical space soundtrack feel to it. You know, I'd say it's closest to something like Mass Effect in terms of vibe. You know, maybe somewhere between Mass Effect and Destiny, because I think of Mass Effect as kind of more subdued and ethereal, and then the Destiny soundtracks, especially like the original soundtrack, and then the fucking Taken King expansion, they still have more of that Halo-esque like drums and brass to them. That you know, it hits a little bit harder than some of the Mass Effect soundtracks. I forget who did the Mass Effect soundtracks. I actually have this giant like space music playlist that I've added to over the years, and of course, The Expanse went on there as soon as I discovered that show. Here we go. Music of the Spheres is on there. A little Johan Johansson. Dark Side of the Moon, speaking of which. Clinton Shorter, yeah, for The Expanse. Did I not put Mass Effect in here? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't want to cross the streams. I have a dedicated Mass Effect playlist. Let's just go to that. Jack Wall, that was it. Yeah, Jack Wall and Sam Hullock, I think. Oh, and then for the later games, it was that Chris Velasco and Sasha Dikishian, Christopher Lawrence. Anyway, those guys. It's good. You know, the entire soundtrack is the one dude, Clinton Shorter, which is really good. But it's, you know, definitely a step more in the Halo Destiny direction than these guys from Mass Effect. I'm glad I got around to doing some actual writing this week. Posted what I have. Yeah, exactly. This is the time for it, man. Like I said, when the whole it was only because of Corona Pona that I was able to get all the sound editing done for that giant 6.5 hour fucking behemoth in April and May. I still don't know how I did it. I thought it was going to kill me, to be honest. I was so run down by the end of it. Like, I'd been taking caffeine pills and coffee and all sorts of crazy stuff just to get it done. But I knew I had to get it done. I knew I had to make that 6-year window. And I was so happy that I did. And then it was the same thing. Yeah, then I had a vacuum of no more new series. So I was like, okay, gonna create something brand new. Let's check the incubator and see which egg I want to pop out and eat. And that egg happened to be Ulysses Chronicle, so we're doing that now. I don't know how long it'll last because the release format and sort of production schedule is so different from my usual annual rhythm of Confessions. I'm going to say it's going to be like 2 seasons a year. It kind of feels like I'll have 3 months of production and then 3 months of release, then 3 months of production and then 3 months of release. So I'm going to say that. I'm hoping ideally, because season 1 finishes up at the end of December with the holiday thing. And then probably January, February, March, we'll be doing the recordings and masterings of the season 2 episodes. And then hopefully be releasing them like April, May, June. No promises, but that's kind of the feel I have right now. So we'll see. So if it kind of works out like that, then we got a bit of time. Because there's 5 seasons. The whole story is planned. It's like Avatar, The Last Airbender, but with Romans. No, but the bones are there. The whole skeleton is there. We're just slowly putting those lamb chops in the right places. I don't know if anyone has listened to the newest episode, the chapter 5, Mechanist Trachis. But there's some fun little sensuality in there, you know. Obviously, the framing of the story is very dramatic and kind of moody. So I'm like, okay, we gotta put some lighthearted stuff, you know, and balance out the violence with sex, so to speak. But it's not sex, but you know, it's of that genre. So what is Confessions of a Demented Pony? We covered that at the beginning of the podcast a little bit, but the first 3 minutes of the video fully explain what it is. So hopefully you'll get the idea. You're actually listening right now. We're almost through the second album of Everywhere at the End of Time. And that is the... It's like Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon being merged together, and they kind of work together in weird ways. That's fun to listen to. It's basically the same thing, but with this really creepy 6-album piece on dementia. So check that out. Anyway, I'll be damned. We are at the 1 hour 45 minute mark. So we'll start the winding down for anyone that's up or about or been in the chat the whole time. If you have any questions or topics that you want me to cover, go ahead and throw those out now. And otherwise, we'll just be spinning things down for our nice round 2 hour mark for BananaCasts. I guess another of all the worst things of 2020, another worst thing of 2020 is all the games getting delayed. So now I have my black cube of Xbox machine, but there's no fucking games for it. my Halo Infinite, to be honest, it seems like it was never ready for 2020. I'm going to argue, and this is complete speculation on my part, I'm going to argue that if Chronopona never happened, it still wouldn't have been done by the release schedule this last week. It still would have been subpar, and the release would have had the same kind of effect as the Halo 4 release or the Halo 5 release, where it felt like the game wasn't done yet, and, you know, they shat it out early. Which is all really sad because they've changed game directors a couple times, and they just replaced the last director again like 3 weeks ago with, is it Joe Staten? Like one of the original Halo guys is back, which, you know, honestly should have let him leave, but that's a whole different discussion. We've had that discussion about Bungie Studios and Destiny and Activision. We've had that discussion, but I digress. So they brought back one of the old-timers to be leading the game again, which really puts into question, like, okay, so is it even coming out holiday of 21? Who fucking knows? As everyone's favorite Halo meme Craig, the brute soldier, can attest, it doesn't quite look like they got the RTX working yet. Or was it ray tracing? The ray tracing working yet? Because those were like PS3 textures for the next gen console, which is not good. It's just really not good. So hopefully they're doing some work on that, which is really sad because then, like in the aftermath, they were hyping things up with the music, and all three of the music pieces they dropped were really good. There was let me go to my Halo playlist now. There was Reverie, which was my favorite. I have so many copies of Reverie in my playlist, so it comes up a lot. And then there was Set a Fire in Your Heart, and then there was another one, Through the Trees, which is like their new modern version of In the Woods from Halo 1 soundtrack, or whatever it was called, Walk in the Woods, where it's the sniper level thing, the bum 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 bum, sort of their new version of that. And yeah, at first I didn't know. I thought they brought back Kazuma Jinoshi, but I guess he's gone back to Hiroshima or whatever. And they have these guys, Curtis Schweitzer and Gareth Coca-Cola. And I was not familiar with either of them, but hearing those three tracks, I am very plussed. I'm very satisfied with what they've done so far with the music. I'm sure I discussed on one of my live streams about my change in feelings toward the Halo 4 and 4 soundtrack, especially with Neil Davidge, where I used to really hate it, and I don't know. I replayed through Halo 4, and I had a much better impression of the game after the fact. And same with the music. So, I don't know. When Halo 4 did come out, I was in a really weird time in college anyway. So I think some of the really stupid bullshit that was happening in college to me at the time might have bled over into my feelings of the game. So I felt a lot better about it. I actually have my own dedicated sequel series Halo playlist now, where it's just Halo 4, Halo 5, and some of the movies. Like, what was it? The Forward Unto Dawn. The Forward Unto Dawn movie, which was live action, that had a really good soundtrack too, by this guy Nathan Lanier. Really solid stuff. Let's check the chat for those questions. Trying to beat Hollow Knight, Colorfleave, and Little Pip. I'm getting a Chromecast from Google and can't wait to play the Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, I've heard really good things about the Game Pass. I'm not a gamer anymore, so I probably wouldn't find too much value out of that, so I didn't get it. Basically, I bought the Xbox because it's new, because I'm a Slavish fanboy that's going to support the X-Bone no matter what. I got it to be my new Halo machine, and for them 4K graphics output for, the Netflixes and the Halo HBO Maxes, and also to be my 4K Blu-ray player. So I'll start getting the 4K Ultra HD discs of everything now. And then Cyberpunk. Whenever Cyberpunk comes out. If Cyberpunk ever comes out. It's been 7 years now since the very first trailer with personal responsibility, and it's like the game went gold, and then they had another delay, and people got really upset. And at first, I thought they were getting a little more upset than they should, but now I'm kind of siding with them. Now it kind of seems like they were like, yeah, game is gold! Just kidding. Sorry. Maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of strange. Huh. When is the Skybolt going to finish reading the core FOE stories? I don't know, man. I'll be honest, I did hear, I guess in Fallout Equestria news, which seems appropriate for the channel, the audiobook that's just the little pip version of the audiobook apparently is going to be ready soon, of the, official FOE audiobook project. I am tempted to get that. I might get that and then re-listen through the original story as told by their little pip. And then maybe from there I'll go over to, no. I'll be honest, I probably won't. I feel like our Fallout Equestria stuff is kind of on the wind down. We're working on the ending of, Wasteland Survival Guide stuff too, and I don't know how much more I'm going to read, like the big, super gigantic other stories either. I just, it's been a long time. We're not like exiting FOE stuff completely, but all the really big stuff we got done that we really wanted to. So I don't know. I'm part of the FOE Dead Tree book for sure. So I guess that's the one I'm reading now, is the one I'm participating in the creation of the audio drama for over on the Shotgun Angel Productions channel. Please go subscribe. I mean, it might as well. It's borderline a shared production because so many EAST Corp people are over there. Like, Chris is one of the narrators, and I am Nyota, the super serious zebra. And then, Cinderscript is leading the production, our beloved Diamondback, and all that stuff. So, and I got to do the music. Me and James Kelly got to work with Forest Rain for the theme songs and some of the other music-y things that we're doing. So yeah, I'm not going anywhere. But at the same time, I'm not sure how keen I am to be going through any of the other stories either. Unless they're in an audiobook. If there are audiobooks versions, which I'm sure for some of them there are, Project Horizons. I don't know about Project Horizons actually, but I don't know. Because there's other stuff too. Like, I have whole giant Audible list of stuff that I really need to listen to eventually. And especially for some of my own writing things I'm working on, it's part of my, background material. Like, I'm listening to a book on the Bronze Age collapse right now, and things like that. So, I don't know. They're big books, okay? Like, you have to remember, Confessions of Wasteland Pony and Terminal Secrets together are about, all of our stuff combines, 40 hours. We're barely 2/3 the size of the original Fallout Equestria. It's a lot of shit. Like, Project Horizons audiobook is probably 150 hours. Maybe Pink Eyes I can finish. I only listened to half of that back in the day. But then Heroes and Murky Number 7, those are longer than the original Fallout Equestria too. Fuck, man. I don't know how they have the time to write all this shit. I guess they have their staff writers. They have their editor committees. My excuse was always, on top of the writing, we were immediately converting all the scripts into full dramatized radio play format, so that is why ours took as long as they did. But I mean, I'm just not as fast of an author as those people either. My overall output has been going up over the years. I'm at the point of I want to say 75,000 words a year. Maybe I'm almost at 100,000, but at least 75,000 words a year in terms of my overall total scripted narrative things that I output. Because you think of when I started writing the really big ones Engineer and Ice Mare and The Ranger, a lot of those were happening concurrently, and then I was also writing the scripts for Hunger and Dose and Awake, and then we were writing the scripts for Wasteland Survival Guide stuff and other little stuff, and then I had a symphonic metal opera in the middle, so I do what I can, I have a regular job and friends and stuff too, so anyway, I'll do what I can. FOE is life, yes. I guess so. I mean, it's at least a solid chunk of my life at this point, so, Hopefully I can find that certain special lady out there who is also a giant Fallout Equestria fan. That would be the dream. And then she's also a singer, and then we can make beautiful music together for the rest of our lives or some shit. How are you alive then? I'm not. This is post-life. Are you listening to the soundtrack? This is, everything at the end of time. Everywhere at the end of time, sorry. That's where we're all gonna be when, the heat death of the universe, when all particles, dissolve together, we are all going to be everywhere at the end of time. It's perfect. I don't know what universe. I guess I've always subscribed to the heat death of the universe theory. Maybe what do they call it? The Big Bounce is true too. Like once everything goes completely flat and energy hits zero, then it's like the new Big Bang, and then everything swirls together again, like someone uncorking a drain into Universe 2. Universe 2, Dinosaur People Boogaloo. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. I'm an engineer. The basic difference is physicists think about making things, and then the engineers actually make them. So, you can have your crazy mathematics and your field theories and stuff, but at the end of the day, someone has to fucking weld plates together and make your, Chicago Pile 1 or your plutonium containment reactor or whatever. At the end of the day, you need to actually build the thingy to make it cool and stuff. That's ultimately the problem with the fusion energy, is we need someone to actually get the tokamak or whatever the fuck reactor to actually sustain energy and output more energy than we feed into the thing, and then we can all live in the future. Here we are in the future. Oh, I'm going to cry. Yeah. Floating in space waiting for the big bounce. The big bounce is literally just now I'm thinking of it like a music artist, like a future rapper, 5 trillion AD rapper, the Big Bounce, who just jumps into the last pile of unenthalpied matter, and he triggers the next Big Bang with the Big Bounce's Big Bounce. I'm picturing like space Biggie Smalls jumping into a swimming pool. Oh man, that's so silly. That's so silly. This is what Spooky Dementia Podcast brings you. I guess I'll take a passing glance at the Discord and see what people are saying. I've been ignoring it because, like I said, I just needed a Skybolt solo stream. A little bit of that uncork, a little bit of that. This is very whatchamacallit. I've said this for years. Therapeutic for me is the monologuing. It's the release of the internal thought energy. It's the introvert problem of being too bottled up. You don't want to be too bottled up, because then you punch a hole in the wall that you have to patch up later, and find the right spackle pattern and whatever the fuck you call like the wall texture. The banana cork, that's right. Well, everyone knows that the Saturn himself was the fuck. I was going to make a joke of both the Saturn black cube thing and then deism, which is the absent clockmaker or whatever, because technically that is the state religion of America. If you really want to get into like the nuts and bolts and like the history of the United States, all of our a good chunk of our founding fathers were deists, which is like which is like atheism without the edge. Well, they're not atheists. They believe in a god. They believe in the clockmaker that basically built the machinery of the universe and then, wound the clock and set it in motion, and then they fucked off. Then they're building some other universe, or they're playing golf with, with Gaia and not Gaia. What are the Samurai Jack gods? With fuck, it's too late. Odin and Krishna and whatever. Building their own universe. Universe 2, Big Bounce Boo. He basically edited out anything that wasn't like totally, scientifically accurate of its day. This is before germ theory too. Like, everyone forgets how much the world has changed in the last like 200-300 years, but like germ theory wasn't even really a thing until like the 1870s, till after the American Civil War is when germ theory became like a real thing. Like, the early Industrial Revolution, a lot of Britain's early advances in like waste management and like pipes and sewage systems built throughout London and the big cities in like the 1810s and 20s and 30s, that was still operating on miasma theory principles, which is the way older science of basically, does it have bad smell to it? Which is this very, very biological, very evolutionary kind of like, if it smells bad, it is bad, and therefore, that's when the bad miasma represents the disease. And that's literally plague doctor, like, thought process. That's why plague doctors had the beak mask, because they would fill it with potpourri, with flowers and perfume and shit, and they thought, okay, I got a face full of rhododendrons and lavender essential oils, so if I can't smell the smallpox, I can't contract the smallpox. Didn't exactly work that way for those unfortunate plague doctors, but when your four humors are off, it's, you just got to deal with it. You just gotta grab some leeches and get rid of the bad blood, and then you'll be fine. But interestingly, it is some of that kind of classical science and theories and stuff that I'm working off of for Ulysses Chronicle as well, because the evolution of technology wouldn't have necessarily occurred in the same way either. Especially considering the time frame for those of you at home actually doing the math with those little end stings about, when each chapter has been completed. It doesn't work out to actually be in, the 2000s or whatever, because it's based on the Roman calendar, and the founding of Rome was in like 700 BC of our calendar, the greater Western Gregorian calendar. Because in Ulysses Chronicle, there isn't capital C, Christ or Abrahamic religions like becoming the whole world, basically. They're all very localized, just little belief systems, in the same way like modern Druze religion is. That's Druze, or modern Zoroastrianism, where they exist, people know of them, but they're not 80% of a given population, or whatever, things like that. They're more akin to like localized folk religions. And that is important. It's going to play a part in the story as things go on. And that is why in the very intro, little 4-minute sad narrative setup, he mentions, Sol Invictus several times. I wonder if that's relevant. We'll see. Yeah, a lot of good those masks did them. They did their best. They were draining boils and, oh god, that's another fun thing. If you are not averse to 4chan culture, Google the green texts, Plague Doctor green texts. They're so funny. I think you could just pull them up on Google Images, and there's a couple really popular ones where people are just like, be me, Plague Doctor, and it's just, jokes about the old-timey medicine. It's very fun. Anyway, I think, speaking of old-timey, everywhere at the end of time, I think we're everywhere at the end of the podcast. So, thank everyone for joining me on this nice little mental evulsion of. It's been a pretty weird couple of weeks. Like I said early on in the stream, I've had a lot of personal tragedies the last couple of months outside of the greater general, 2020 stuff that's been happening. So that's been really hard to deal with, actually, and it has been nice, devoting time into just Ulysses Chronicle and try and ignore the greater outside world. I guess I'll personally mention as well, to thank all of the cast of Ulysses Chronicle who've been so great. All the Classical Confessions, Wasteland Pony peeps, for supporting the new show and for being supportive in like our chat and everything, because that's really helped me get through just sometimes. So anyway, I'll leave you guys all on that bit of tease for the series. Hopefully you're listening. If you haven't yet, I know it's not Pony, but definitely when the season wraps up, you definitely want to go back through all that. I think it's going to end up being like 2.5 hours in total for the first 10 episodes, so it should be pretty great. And we're going to introduce all the characters, and we're going to get some good lore and all the setup for Volume 2. Volume 2, which is going to be our rising action in so many different ways. So, anyway, thank you all for joining us for another fantabulous BananaCast, and we will talk to you all later.